Sipping and roasting, yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne. Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like a party. It's about to happen, Luke.
Oh, it's about to happen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza, internationally known as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we're bringing you show number 439. 439, which means we've done 438 of these prior to today.
That puts us one past the halfway point to 500.
So we're just past now the halfway point.
Does that include the mystery episode that got lost?
Yes, it does. Yeah, unfortunately, the mystery episode, that which will never be heard. But I'm kind of happy. I was really mad about it at the time, but now I kind of like that there's a mystery episode out there that no one's ever heard, because it adds a mystique, a whole mystique to the show.
Yeah.
What was on the mystery episode? Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, man. Ian drank a Michelob Ultra and loved it. He gave it like a super high rating. That's why the show can never air.
I think that's why you know it's a mystery.
Yeah, that's right. A made up thing, one of those things. Well, welcome to the show. We are once again at our home away from studio at the Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas. And a big and special hello to Mr. Doug Messinger, the proprietor of this fine establishment.
Yes, sir. Welcome back.
Who is proudly wearing a John Denver shirt, and I salute you for this.
Thank you.
John Denver was much maligned back in the day.
True.
And these days, in stadiums all over the world, they sing his songs in between the periods of the sporting events and stuff.
The badassery of John Denver is not up for debate with me.
I love this man.
It's interesting because I was with a friend of mine, and her daughter was reading a story to her young girl. It was 2-3 years old. It's like, I've been reading this for years, and she didn't realize that the song was that it was Grandma's Feather Bed.
Oh yeah,
it was like a storybook version of Grandma's Feather Bed. I had no idea that there was a whole song and person like John Denver that existed or anything.
Guys,
It's a shame.
I'll give you a tip here. You want to score some major points with the woman in your life? Write out and then just read to her the lyrics to Annie's song by John Denver.
Oh.
When you get to, you fill up my senses like a night in a forest, she's all yours. That's all I'm saying. It happens just like that. And I speak from experience.
S&P love it.
Lest we forget, though, we
here.
cannot forget, though, that
We haven't
Annie
even-
left John.
That's true. That's true.
Ouch.
But this is when he started doing crazy crap like
I'm not saying
flying
she
his
didn't have
plane
reasons.
towards the,
But she did.
towards the bay and stuff. We have gotten so caught up in one of our famous sidetracks here, and it didn't even involve Nicolas Cage. So there's that. But we haven't even welcomed our special guest, and we're so excited to have him back, Mr. Tony Barrios from Stallone Cigars.
Yes.
Tony, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
I am really excited to have you back today because since the last time that we had you on, I remember you gave us, as a little parting gift, you gave us a package, just like a little care pack, one each of your different styles of cigars. I took those home, smoked them over the next couple of weeks, and I have to tell you, I don't know if I've ever been so impressed with a boutique, emerging boutique cigar company. Not only was every single one of them perfectly constructed, and they smoked like a dream. Like I wish some of the big guys would learn how to roll like this. But they also were all, noticeably different in flavor.
Unique.
But they were also wonderfully complex. I got to tell you, there wasn't a single one of them that I wasn't just crazy for. And so one of the things we like doing on this show is introducing people to things like, hey, if you haven't heard about this, this is something you should try. And we want to give a full-throated voice and support to Stallone Cigars. Now, I know you guys aren't necessarily available everywhere, so we'll talk about how people can get to your cigars, but you are available in a number of places, and certainly Doug's got you in the humidor here at here at Vinyl Draft. So if you're in Kemah, come down, have a steak, then grab yourself one of these and come up to the smoking lounge because
Can't beat it.
and tell Doug I said you could come in and smoke.
I will.
It'll be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
okay.
I'll let Doug know that.
But seriously,
Carte blanche.
I mean, honestly, you guys do such a wonderful job of blending and crafting these cigars. And what I loved about the last time is when we dug in and got to talking about them. We can just feel your passion for this whole process.
Thank you so much.
And that's just something that just lit me up. And I was like, we got to have Tony back on again because this is just too good not to be sharing with you. So we're excited about doing that. We'll be talking about your cigars today on the program. We'll also be doing some tastings of some various things, including what I hope are going to be some interesting beers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the Old Thunder Brewing Company. We'll be trying something called Forever Bright. It is a German-style Pilsner.
We haven't had anything from them.
I don't think we have. I think it's the first time. And I don't think we've had anything from this next brewery either, from Warwick, New York, a brewery called Drowned Lands. Drowned Lands, like lands that have had a little too much rain.
Like Southeast Texas.
Like Southeast Texas right now, yeah. We'll be trying their Spring Terra double IPA. And then finally, we do this every year, from Chicago, Illinois, the Goose Island Beer Company. The one Goose Island that's actually worth drinking is their Bourbon County Original Stout. We have the 2024 with you today. Now, Alan, you just perked up.
So, the last time, did I bring it to your house, Ian, or did y'all come over and we drink? Y'all came to the house.
Yeah.
They have a macaroon stout.
They do. In fact, one of the things I noticed, I was on their website a little bit earlier, just prepping for the show, is they now release their yearly special stout in like 7 or 8 different
Versions.
varieties. They have the macaroon that you mentioned. They have
rye?
ones that are rye, yes, and ones that are done in different aging barrels and stuff. So, excuse me, it's a pretty cool thing. We got just the regular original stout 2024 today, and then I thought it'd be a good day for some Scotch. Although I'm hoping the Scotch will stand up to this cigar we're smoking, because this is a pretty stout. But we have Signatory's vintage Knockando. It's a 10-year Spec barrel pick single malt, and it's from Scotland, and I think it's going to be pretty good. So
You're not even smoking the stronger of the two.
no, but I've had a little cough this week, so I'm trying to keep it. See? Okay. Guys, we will have our regular features on the program today. We'll be doing the Drunken Fact here in just a few minutes. We like to give you a little teaser for it, even though it's not far away. It gives Ian an excuse to break out the ukulele with the little time card in the front. There you go. Our Drunken Fact teaser headline for today is: I'm a legend in my own shower. And of course, we'll be drinking news, doing drinking news in the second half of the program, in hour number 2. And our drinking news teaser headline for today is:
Thought on my mirror.
dude, what did you eat?
No.
So we'll be getting to that. We'll be telling you about some sad news. 3 Houston area Texas craft breweries announced they're closing over a 2-week period. Some bummer news. We'll tell you about that, and we'll try to get to this: the most mispronounced beer names. See if you guys are guilty of the mispronunciation at all, or if it's just me. And so we have a number of other things that we will be looking forward to getting to. But one of the first things we like to do on the show every week is one of us will bring in a beverage of sorts. Sometimes it's a seltzer, sometimes it's cider, sometimes it's beer, sometimes it's Malort.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
Amen.
Yeah, often it's not, but we'll see. The only person who knows what it is the person who brung it. Today, that's me. You guys sniff and tell me what you think.
Fruity.
It smells cidery.
Yeah.
Like apple-y.
Apple.
Nice apple.
Sweet.
Or smell.
It looks apple-y too.
I think you'll find when you sip it, it tastes apple-y as well.
It does.
It very much does.
The nose is exactly like the taste.
You know what it reminds me of? Did you ever get those little cans of apple juice that have the little peel off top, this tiny
Yeah.
cans.
Yep.
That's kind of what it reminds me of.
But you know what it reminds me also is the kind that you get, but the newer kind that's all natural with no sugar. Because it's not very sweet. This isn't very
Yeah, it
sweet. And
smells
there's
sweeter than it
There's
is.
no sweeter aftertaste or anything.
delicious.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is quite good, isn't it?
Little light carbonation, not much.
Very drinkable, though. In fact, and I poured this a little bit before the show. It better be even better if it was just a little colder.
Ice cold
Yeah,
on
but that's
a
not
summer
bad.
day.
It's tart.
Yeah.
Like a green apple kind of tart.
Tart in a good way. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
agreed. What do you think, Doug?
Tastes like a Martinelli's sparkling cider that you opened 4
Yep.
hours ago.
Ah, okay.
That you opened for you.
That's very specific.
Yeah. I bet you have a very specific question for me as
I
well.
do. Is that a beverage of mystery in your pocket, or are you just happy to be here today?
Well, I'm very happy to be here, as I mentioned, but it is, in fact, a beverage of the street. It is Aval Premium Cider. Aval is a French cider, and this is their gold.
Pretty darn good.
Yeah, it really is. I loved it. In fact, I'm going to drink a little more.
Drink a little more yourself.
This is actually, I think, one of the better apple ciders I've had in a while.
That's really
Don't you
good.
think?
It's really good.
So, just to show you that the beverage of mystery doesn't always have to be bad.
No, we had actually quite a few pretty good,
Although-
good ones recently.
Had I known that Alan was going to be on the show today, I would have tried to bring something appropriately disgusting for the beverage of mystery.
There's a bottle. I should probably just default to bringing on the Lord with me.
We are at the Vinyl Draft Social Club where Doug does like to partake in malorting of people, and there's a bottle of malort over there. I saw it right beneath the prostitution license. So
Doug, is that true?
right.
Do you partake in the occasional malorting? Of people?
I pay it forward.
You pay it
I
forward.
pay it forward. It was done to me. I do it to others.
Yes. Well, that's not a bad way to look at it. So,
Have you had Malort before?
oh, Tony,
The first time I tried it, I wanted to fight.
what is the slogan that you read, Ian Malort?
Malort, tonight's the night you fight your dad.
One of the greatest slogans ever. So yeah, we'll have to share some of that with you if Doug doesn't mind
Oh, I don't mind
dipping
at all.
into his private stash.
I just buy, but I have to film it. That's the deal. have
But
to
I will
film it
tell
and
you,
drink it.
Tony, in all seriousness, in Chicago, they love this stuff. It's like a thing there, like a badge of honor. I don't know if they love it or if they just pretend to because it's part of their.
Hey, I was there some months back, and I was walking all around Wrigleyville, and I'm telling you, every bar down there has it behind the bar. Every last.
I think it's Chicago's way of saying to us, look, we have to deal with the Cubs, we have to deal with the Bears. Might as well give us this. Give us this. And you know, I probably figured they deserve it. So, all right.
Why aren't we on the radio in Chicago?
I can't remember. But it's my kind of town, I can tell you that. Chicago is. All right, we're going to take a break and I'm back momentarily to see if I can make it through the whole show without coughing. I do have a tickle in my throat this week. But one of the best things I've found to work on that is beer and whiskey. And we have both of those things here today. So we'll be working on it. And we'll be talking cigars with Tony Barrios and STALLONE Cigars. And we have a lot to get to, so thanks for joining us and staying here. We'll be back with the Drunken Fact and talk a little bit about these cigars we're smoking now. It's Smoking and Stone. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Smoking and Toasting. It's our radio program and podcast and video cast that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are at our on location at our home away from the studio, Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas. I always enjoy coming here. It's always such a fun and chilled out show. And Doug has such a wonderful facility here for people to enjoy. And I pointed this out before, but just the whole wall of vinyl albums. There's a part of me that just gets so excited when I see that. And I want to go through and pull every one of them out and read the liner notes.
We've been listening to that new Springsteen box set that came out on Friday. It's
How are you finding it? You're a Springsteen fan, right?
I am a Springsteen fan, I admit. I'm only on 4 of the 7. albums, and I've loved all 4.
Is it? What is it? Does it encompass everything? What is
It is
encompassing?
7 unreleased albums that he recorded between 1983 and 2018.
Oh wow!
Never put them out. And in fact, the LA Garage Sessions for me, that's the thing he did between Nebraska and Born to Run.
Oh wow!
So it's sort of, and in fact, it actually has my hometown on it, but a completely different
version.
Interesting.
Yes, it's always interesting to me, artists that are that prolific. Prince was that way. There's supposedly like thousands of songs in a vault at Paisley Park that have never seen the light of day.
Well, when Prince got out of his, was it Warner that he was on? When he got out of his Warner contract, he literally just threw 4 albums at him to complete it.
Which is, and they weren't his best albums either, which is pretty crappy if you think about it.
These are all over the place. We were listening earlier. There's one that's kind of got a mariachi vibe to it, where he's got mariachi. There's the one that's kind of his crooner Sinatra type album.
I read about that.
There's a country album. It's they're all over the place.
Love it. And he's an artist that can pull off all those styles, which is what's really cool. Well, I'm going to have to check it out.
I saw something not too long ago. It was one of those on Instagram, posts of stuff. And he went somewhere in New Jersey, I think, and did some random show or something. And the crowd was crazy. Like, there was so much crowd. It almost looked like it put Taylor Swift's crowd to shame. And it was just amazing. And you know how the Swifties are when it comes to stuff,
Hanging out doing this for a while.
He's got it down.
No question. Well, we want to bring you our drunken fact here on the show. The drunken fact started out, we brought you a fact about drinking every week, and we kind of ran out of those, but we decided that if we just morphed it into the drunken fact, that we could keep doing it, which we really do because we like the little fanfare that we play. And so the drunken fact is perfect for you to kind of keep tucked away in your mind until you're at a party, everybody's drinking, and you can drop some knowledge on them and be kind of the hit of the party, the intellectual, as it were, of the party. So, Terry, if you don't mind bringing us in here.
And now it's time for another Smoking and Toasting Drunken Fact.
And we're pausing here because we're on location, and that's where the fanfare goes. So we'll get inserted in post if you're listening to the show that you heard it. Our drunken fact for today, and these are true facts, by the way. We know they're true because we found them on the internet.
There's no bad information.
True fact. People are genuinely more creative when they're in the shower. When we take a warm shower, we experience an increased dopamine flow that makes us more creative. Now, I can attest to you guys that this is true. Some of the most creative thoughts I've ever had in the shower: idea to eliminate waste, edible paper. Stole that from Michael Keaton. That one was really nice.
Nice shift.
What if Ian and I, dressed up in solid green suits, broke into a TV studio and harassed the weatherman while he was doing his report? No one would know what was happening. That would be awesome. That's one of my better shower ideas, right? And my best one, if I gathered a group of people who each had an allergy to one herb or one spice and fed them all KFC, through the process of elimination, I could discover the Colonel's secret recipe. Don't you think those are great ideas? I'm very proud of those ideas. All from in the shop.
That's wow.
Secret herbs.
Wow.
Secret home
So here's where I imagine in post we would once again insert the tape. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice to leave us time to do that. But
I once solved constant power, that thing, like in Spider-Man, that would give you constant power, but I didn't have anything to write it down on, so I forgot it when I got out of the shower.
Edible paper?
My paper got wet.
So one of the things I think about when I'm in the shower is when I get out of the shower, I'm going to have a cigar. And that's something that, when you get enough into cigars and you begin to really enjoy smoking them because of what the flavors are and how much you can relax when you're, sitting on your porch or sitting in a room like this and smoking cigars, it becomes a really special experience. And I'm finding that the older I get, the more I'm just life is too short for like bad cigars, right? It's okay if they're cheap cigars, but they can't be bad cigars. And one of the things that I love about Stallone Cigars, Tony's label, is that we are constantly beautifully surprised by the complexity of these. So when we come back, we're going to get into that a little bit and talk to you about it, Tony, and just find out, how did you come up with some of these amazing blends? And so we'll do that next. Welcome back, my friends. It's Smoking and Toasting on location at one of our favorite places in the world. It's the Vinyl Graph Social Club in Kemah, Texas. We love doing the show here. We love being able to obviously smoke, but we love it because we're, likely to get a pod crash from Alan Denny, who is here with us. We like it because we have a good time hanging out with Doug, and we like it because Doug invites all kinds of cool special guests, like Tony Barrios from Stallone Cigars. And while Ian is pouring and distributing our next beer, Tony, I just want to talk about your blends a little bit. Looking at just your core lines.
Yes.
How much time did it take you to arrive at each of those blends? Was it a long process?
Yeah, it was a very long process. It took years to develop because each blend is different, is unique, and when I created each blend, I was thinking in a particular type of consumer, right?
Right.
So a Connecticut person is not going to search for some things that are coming in a San Andres.
Sure, right.
So that's the reason why I took my time. And the other thing is, we were discussing earlier, I try my blends, in different parts of the world, So I do the blends in Nicaragua, and then I get samples. So when I travel around the world, I try the cigars in different places.
Yeah, now we talked about this off air a little bit, but this is really interesting to me. You've pointed out that when you do the blends in Nicaragua, you smoke the cigars there.
Yeah.
They have a certain flavor there, but if you take those to Miami or to Europe or somewhere else in the United States, they taste different. Why is that?
Yeah, the humidity, the altitude conditions are crucial, to the perceiving taste that we have in our noses. For example, if you smoke in Colorado, it's very hard to pull all those flavors from the cigar, right? And all the peppery can be completely gone from the same cigar. And if you smoke in a very humid weather, you can feel that cigar more towards peppery, more strong, you can feel, and that's a true fact that I studied, as a mechanical engineer, I think as an engineer always, and I did some math calculations because I took notes in every place with humidity, pressure, altitude, and I smoked, 3 cigars, the same blend, and no doubt the changes that I noticed.
So is there a place that's kind of like your median? Is there a place you go, I want this cigar to be the best at this kind of location?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because I cannot blend a cigar to be smoked only in one place, right?
Right.
So what I do is I smoke them in the extreme condition where I never would like to smoke a cigar there, and the places where the cigar feels so overwhelming and strong, and then I take the medium spot and reblend that cigar, right? So most of the people can get pretty decent same experience,
So it's so interesting you say this because I was thinking back a number of years ago. I got to go on a media trip to Iceland. And of course I took some cigars with me and smoked them while I was there, and I noticed that they tasted different, but I couldn't quite figure out why. And now I'm beginning to understand, because of what you're saying, why, the difference in, the air was very cold and dry. There was a very different, the elevation where I was very different. So it's just, that is all fascinating. So for someone who lives in, let's say, we're here in the Houston, Texas area. Is there a particular kind of cigar, kind of wrapper, kind of a blend that we should be looking for that's best attuned to be at its optimum flavor here for us?
I think here it's pretty humid, because we have the sea close. I think the Corojo will smoke perfectly here.
Yeah.
The Habano blend also. And if you're a heavy smoker, you can have all the for example, the Maduros, the San Andres Maduro, and the broadleaf, and you're gonna feel more kind of power,
More
to
punch,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but talking, going back to your question, I think those two cigars, and the Palomino also fits really good in this kind of very humid condition. Actually,
Love
when
it.
I go fishing, I love to smoke the Palominos. They taste, so rich, and with the sun, you don't get that kind of sweaty thing that you get with a heavy Maduro, on the fishing conditions. Yeah.
So I want to get to tasting this beer, but I have a sort of a weird question for you. Why do I love San Andres wrapper cigars so much? What is it about that that's just connecting with me?
Well, the San Andres wrapper from Mexico is a very unique wrapper, very unique tobacco. It has a leathery, dark coffee bean and earthy qualities, taste. And that wrapper combined to Nicaraguan aged tobacco is the magic. Is where the magic happens.
So most of my favorite cigars are San Andres wrapper, Nicaraguan binder and filler,
You
or
can't
at
go
least the
wrong.
filler.
You can go wrong with that.
Love
And
that.
when it first came out, people didn't want to use the San Andreas.
Well, there
They were
was
scared of it.
wasn't there kind of a negative thing to Mexican tobacco?
Yeah.
that was considered maybe inferior?
Yeah, because most of the people judge the San Andres tobacco by the cigars that were made in Mexico with all San Andres.
Right.
And if you smoke a cigar made with all San Andres tobacco, in my personal opinion, I don't enjoy them too much. For example, it's not my type of flavor. I'm not discouraging the Mexican.
Sure, no, I get it. Yeah.
But if you combine Mexico wrapper with Nicaraguan tobacco, you're right in the alley of that particular wheel flavor smokers that we like heavy and dark and
Yeah.
I love being able to figure these things out.
Well, since the last time you were on the show, I have consistently bought the broadleaf. That to me is such a good cigar. I keep smoking it over and over. I always have some humidor now.
Which, by the way, goes to support something we often say here on the program, which is smoking and toasting directly influencing sales. Sometimes just because Ian or me or Terry will go and buy stuff after the show. And you're absolutely right. All right, we're going to talk cigars a little more, but I want to steer into this beer now because Ian has poured and I can tell has already done some research on this first beer, which is a German-style Pilsner out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from Old Thunder Brewing Company. It's called Forever Bright. Your thoughts, sir?
It's quite good actually. It's interesting because it doesn't taste. Like sometimes you get a German style beer that tastes very German. This one is very malty up front, and then on the finish, it has this bright finish that you're not expecting. And it's almost fruity.
Yes, there's some fruit, some berry fruit flavors almost on the finish.
So it's delicious though. This is something I'd love to try this in a tap room, especially.
Oh, I bet that would be good. Right out of the tap, nice and cold, in a chilled glass. But it's actually good right here. This is an interesting beer because we've not done a beer from Old Thunder Brewing Company before. So I was really
This is
excited.
our single decoction. German-style Pilsner brewed with the finest Pilsner malted barley and a blend of German hops. Expect bright notes of citrus and noble hop flavors.
This may be something that I've said before. Maybe I say this too often, but this to me is one of the perfect examples to give a buddy of yours who's a macro beer person who likes Budweiser, who likes Miller Lite, and say, you know what, try this.
Yeah.
And there's more flavor here. There's more going on, but it's not outside of the wheelhouse of flavor that they're usually looking for in the beers they drink on the regular.
way more complex.
Yes.
I'm so confused because you have buddies that like Budweiser and Miller Lite.
When I first met Ian, all he drank was Michelob Ultra.
And he enjoyed it.
And he enjoyed it. And it's been it's been a process being able to pull him into, but no.
Hey, that's not true. Sometimes I had Coors Light.
That's true. That's true. I will grant that to you.
I mean, it's got a can that tells you when it's cold enough to drink.
No, but listen, that's obviously not true because I refer to Ian casually as my barley wine friend. So, he's a lover of the.
I tell you what, you take a draw off this and then immediately go to this.
Well, I just did that, and wow, it is wonderful together. Yeah, absolutely. So
It
just
creates a new flavor.
Yeah. It brings out some of the more chocolatey notes in this. This, by the way, is a fantastic cigar. This is the newest one you have.
You saw how it changed it?
So you started to
light it?
Oh yeah, the second third is totally different.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, this one started with a big Nicaraguan pepper blast, and then calms down and just the complexity of it. There's leather, there's coffee, there's a little saltiness to it. It's really interesting. There's a little kiss of chocolate in there that moves around, but like baking chocolate, not like super sweet chocolate kind of. I've been enjoying this a lot.
Well, and I will also say, if you were listening during the first segment, I was struggling with a tickle in my throat, and Ian, good friend that he is, suggested, why don't you go ahead and pour yourself some of the whiskey for later, and that'll help with the cough. And he's right, it absolutely has. And it also goes wonderfully with the cigar. So I'm way ahead of you guys because we don't usually do that until later in the show.
Thank you, Dr. Ian.
Yeah, when you get there, you're going to see what I'm talking about.
Drink two of these and don't call me anymore.
That's right. I may not even be able to call you by the end of the show. But that's, these things happen. Tony, where are your cigars manufactured?
In Estelí, Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm.
Our factory is actually 2 blocks away from Oliva Company.
Okay.
Same street. In the heart of Estelí.
And are there, we've talked about this a bit on the show before, but what are the relationships like between, say, you and the Oliva people or the other people who are making cigars in that area?
Oh, we have a really great relationship because, I source a lot of tobacco from the Olivas family, the Olivitas. I buy all the Habano seeds from them. Mm-hmm. I get all the Corojos from Aganorza, from Eduardo Fernandez.
Yeah.
And I got all the Criollos leaves from Del Fernandez, AJ.
AJ Fernandez.
Yeah. So I source tobacco with them, So we have a great relationship.
So you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big AJ Fernandez fanboy. I love his cigars. I love his blends. But I've heard through the cigar grapevine that he's not the most agreeable person. Is he easy to get along with for you? And you don't have to answer.
Yeah, we get along pretty good, but he's a little introverted.
Yeah.
He's not spontaneous, and as he don't speak English, that's a barrier there.
Right. Yeah.
And then maybe he looks like a little tough.
Well,
but he's not.
Ian and I met him, and he was very personable, but obviously he was speaking through a translator. So for all we know, he was telling us to, beat it, get lost, kids. And the translator says, he says, thank you very much for liking his cigar.
He's very nice.
Now, the best is when you see him at Stogie's and Jorge is translating for him. Because Jorge will just give him a look like, really? You want me to say that?
Well, I do think he produces some amazing cigars. Obviously, Oliva, there's no getting away from the quality of what they do. But one of the things a lot of people don't know is that Oliva is a place where a lot of cigar companies source their tobacco.
Yeah, I mean, the Olivas family, not the...
Yeah, it's not the same.
Not the same. The brand Oliva has been sold to a different company, another guy.
Okay.
So
but the Oliva family.
We refer to the Oliva family as the original Oliva family, the founders. Mm-hmm. They keep growing tobacco. In Ecuador, they grow wrapper, Connecticut and Habano, and in Nicaragua, they grow a lot of tobacco as well. So that's when I refer to the Olivas as a source.
How long ago did you found STALLONE Cigars?
Back in 2012, my first trip to Nicaragua.
So you've been at this for a little while. And
as you know, I planted tobacco. I'm third generation tobacco growers in my family. You know, my grandpa started planting tobacco in Italy, and then because of World War, he moved to Venezuela, where I was born. And you know, I grew up in tobacco fields, so that helped me a little bit. You know,
This is in your blood.
yeah. I mean, no, and when you go to a different country, a Latin country, you know, it's very tricky because they hear your accent. If you don't have a Cuban accent, you don't know anything about tobacco. It doesn't matter. So it has helped me a lot to know tobacco in order to see the quality and not hear what they're saying for.
I love it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more cigars. We're going to take the opportunity to taste an IPA now, a double IPA called Spring Terra, and it is from the Drowned Lands Brewery. And I brought this one specifically today because I had a feeling Alan Denny was going to be here. He's not an IPA guy, but I have been able to present him with some IPAs that he's actually enjoyed.
Every time for the last several shows that I've been on, you've had.
So we'll see if my role continues here. Coming up, it's Smoking and Toast. Welcome back, my friends. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we wanted to come back to our home away from studio today, Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas, because we had the opportunity to sit down again with Tony Barrios from STALLONE Cigars. And not only is it always a wonderfully educational experience for us, because Tony is so great about, verbalizing how it's done and how it's put together and why it matters. But this is a cigar company, and we rarely kind of beat the drum like this, but I'm going to. This is a cigar company you guys need to know about. You need to search out STALLONE Cigars if they're not readily available where you are. You need to talk to your favorite retailer and see if they will carry this line if they don't, because this is, I'm telling you, this is one of the boutique cigar companies that you've got to be aware of. Tony, we'll get into distribution and some of that stuff a little later, but I was having so much fun talking tobacco with you and the whole blending process and all of what you do. You mentioned you've been doing this for a while now, 10, 12 years or so. Is that right?
I founded STALLONE Cigar back in 2014.
Okay.
But I started, blending tobacco since back when I have 19 to 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you first learn how to blend?
You can have a master blender to
kind
give
of tutor you and
a little
mentor
class, but that's not going to take you from point A to point B.
Right.
That's just an introduction, because blending tobacco is very complex task, because you have to know tobacco. You have to know all the leaves that you planning to do, because in tobacco world, 2 + 2 never equals 4.
So that leads to a question I wanted to ask you. How much of it is art and how much of it is science when you're blending tobacco?
I think it's 90% arts and 10% science.
Wow, that's interesting. That's actually even a little more towards the art than I would have expected. Does that make sense to you?
No, I mean, it's mystifying to me. Much like a great chef who can take ingredients and already, like, with the ingredients, you already know the ingredients well enough that you have a really good idea what it's going to be at the end of it.
Right.
And then once you get there, you can go, oh, it needs a little bit more of this, but you're very precise about it because you know exactly what it needs. It's not like when I'm cooking at home and I'm like, maybe it's salt or maybe it, so amateurish, right? And it's fascinating. A little more whiskey, maybe a piece of ice.
Well, part of it is the science too, is the burnish. Making sure the wrapper will burn correctly with the binder and the filler.
Yeah, but that's another chapter, because if you have well fermented tobacco and well aged, that will burn. So, but in the blending process, when we look for few points like flavor, aroma, complexity, strength, balance, what's one more important for me, and the combustion and everything, goes, together.
But this is not also just randomly blending stuff. You have an idea in your head. You know what blend you're looking for.
What you're going for, yeah.
Yeah, and the difference between cooking as a chef is you know the ingredients and you're preparing something to be eating mostly, soon.
Right.
But in tobacco, you're cooking for the future. So the
Right, 'cause
recipe
these are
you're
gonna-
putting there is going to change when it gets
When it ages
aged
a little bit.
and all the tobacco leaves get married together. So you have to have the knowledge. So that's why I told at the beginning, having a master class is good, but it's not going to define you or you can start blending right away. You have to play with tobacco a long time.
This goes to a conversation I had with a friend of mine who likes to age some of his cigars in his humidor, which is a practice that people do sometimes. But I think that when you put out a cigar, when it hits the shelf, that's the profile you're looking for. Right?
Exactly.
And while aging can change that and turn it into something else, that's not the profile necessarily you were looking for in the first place.
Well, I've had some cigars that I've bought, I'll buy a handful of them and I'll smoke one and I'll go, I think this would be better with some more time in the humidor. Sometimes that is true.
Yeah, with a big company, that's the best thing to do because they have a huge demand, so they don't have the time to put them
to age everything.
In my case, I age the tobacco as long as they need to. At least 12 months after roll it. So all the leaves can marry together in that particular
It's like
blend.
putting your lasagna in the fridge for tomorrow because it's just going to taste better.
And I just want to show the camera this. This is the Stallone that I have been smoking. The burn is razor straight.
I said that earlier that you and I both at the same time looked at our cigars to see exactly how
It's and I don't know how you. Well, I know how you do it because it's the great care and the meticulous way you go about this. But I've noticed with many cigars, and I'm talking about from some of my favorite cigar makers, that when I go to like a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, it can struggle sometimes to burn as straight. And I've always said, well, that's the nature of that particular tobacco leaf. But your cigars continue to burn so consistently straight. Other than taking great care, is there a secret? How do you do it?
With the broadleaf, there's not the broadleaf, with very thick leaf. Broadleaf is the thicker leaf of all the wrappers, right? So it's impossible because it's nature to have the same thickness all the way through the leaf.
Right.
So that's why you have to do little retouches because, you have more density in one place than the other.
Sure.
But when we classify the wrapper, there's a key. There's a secret. We classify the wrapper and we try to have most even texture. We have very experienced
On a
people.
particular cigar.
Yeah,
Right?
for the broadleaf, because we know it's a thick leaf. So we classify the wrapper leaf by the thickness and the texture. It's where you get the experienced people that they know at the touch, if that leaf qualified to or sign of broadleaf.
And you are clearly using some experienced people. And I want to ask you a little bit more about that.
This is not me. This is a whole team.
Yeah.
From the roller, from the fermentation process guy, from the fields, from everybody. That's credit.
I want to get back to the blend just for a moment too, because there's another piece of magic that I don't think a lot of people think about. Once you create a blend, you have basically a recipe, okay? Just for lack of a better term, you have a basic recipe for what you're going to put in there. But then next year, and the year after, and the year after, the soil may change some, the weather's going to be different, the humidity, the water, all these things change. And yet somehow you can make that same consistent blend even with all those little deviations.
I want to talk more about that. We do have to take a break. I want to talk more about that. And we didn't get a chance to get into this IPA, but I really want to because I'm excited about it. So we'll do that when we come back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Thank you for being here. Welcome back to Hour 2, Smoking and Toasting. This is show number 439. just past the halfway mark to 500. Is what he
Yes,
told me.
just
So
past the halfway mark.
we're very excited about
if you divide it evenly.
about
Yeah.
finally, edging past.
I
Seems
love
like,
that y'all's math still doesn't math.
Seems like
I
it
love
took
that.
a little while. Yeah.
Math is hard.
Was it George W. Bush said fuzzy math? I embrace that. I embrace that. Welcome back to the show. We're talking today about the boutique cigar company you really need to know about, and it is Stallone Cigars, and we're all fans, and we love kind of like learning from Tony Barrios from Stallone Cigars. We're going to get back to that in just a minute, but we didn't have a chance to taste this IPA, or maybe some of us did, because I see Alan is already partway through his. So let me tell you what we're having here. We're having from Drowned Lands, their Spring Terra double IPA. They're out of Warwick, New York, and I've had a pretty good track record of pulling out IPAs that IPA non-fans like Mr. Denny here have actually enjoyed. Have I done it again?
Yeah, so when Ian first handed it to me, I took a nose. I was like, eh. But then we were talking, I set it down, I was lighting a cigar, and I smelled it again. I was like, oh, there's a heavy citrus, that heavy grapefruit note.
Very, very heavy.
A little
Let me tell you
lemon
what.
too.
Yep.
What surprised me is it's very grapefruity, it's very citrusy, but it's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's sweeter than a
malty sweet right up
typical
front.
It's very balanced.
Sometimes you can get those grapefruits that are sweet, right?
Mhm.
The like a pink grapefruit
Yeah.
sometimes can be really sweet, more so than like a ruby red. And that's a little bit of what I taste in here. Although it's not like, I remember Shiner did a grapefruit
ruby red burn.
ruby red, which I really love, but that's not what this tastes like.
No, not at all.
Yeah, this
Not
is a
Yeah,
Oh,
this
this
doesn't have the typical characteristics of an IPA.
This one says
Yeah.
I agree
Citra,
with you.
Mosaic, Lupo Max, and Crush.
I love that there's a hop called Lupo Man.
It's like more rounder.
That just sounds
less
fun to me.
Spiky.
'Cause
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is really good. I love the malty note right up front on this.
I'd love to sip this by the pool. I wouldn't want to like chug it by the pool, but I'd love to sip this.
Yeah,
by the pool.
absolutely.
The fact
Too
that
much
you
flavor
say
at
you
once
would like
to
to
sip.
chug this. I'm looking over at Terry.
And it's,
And Terry is not in the normal position. Terry typically in the studio, he's up on the boards, he's doing
Oh,
things.
he's living his
today
best life
he's
over there.
sitting back.
There's no
He's
camera,
sipping.
and Terry's sitting back, legs spread, cigar in one hand, beer in the other.
With this new thing we're doing today, it's great. I don't feel like I just feel like I'm just sitting here,
You're
just
just
like
hanging out.
I'm just hanging
Enjoy
out
the
with
show.
the show today.
Hopefully
That's
this is
it.
not
Like,
automation getting rid of,
Yeah,
rid of
this
another
is
position.
I just
Sorry, Terry, AI has replaced you.
Is
It's
he
working
kicking
with you.
shoes on? He still has the shoes on. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
I wanted to mention also that this is an IPA that is not in any way fighting with the cigar.
No.
And that's a big deal to me because I love IPAs, but some IPAs that I love I cannot drink when I'm smoking a cigar.
It does not drink like an IPA. Like it's not that super hoppy forward that I don't like. That's what I don't like in IPAs, and this one doesn't have that.
I love
It
how it
doesn't
works
have
with
any
this.
time tone to it.
No.
No, not at all. It's just
Oh no, not
citrus
at all.
and grapefruit and wonderfulness. So so find this one if you can. Drowned Lands Brewery out of Warwick, New York. Why, thank you, sir. This is their Spring Terra. It is a double IPA, and I want to say it's probably about what? Can you
It
find?
doesn't say anywhere on what the ABV is.
I'm gonna guess.
Oh wait,
it's
it does right here, really big in front.
I'm
where I
guessing
wasn't
9.
looking.
How did I do?
8.2.
8.2.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty close.
All right, fair enough. I knew it was more than just your typical kind of like 6.5, 7 IPA, but it doesn't come across as big and boozy either.
And finding one that doesn't fight, especially this massive cigar. And when I say massive, I'm talking about flavor and complexity, and it doesn't fight it is pretty amazing as well.
Tony Barrios is our guest from Stallone Cigars. Tony, you were talking a little bit during our break, and one of the things we love having you on, we love learning so much from you. One of the things that can be frustrating is that you'll drop some knowledge during the break sometime that I'm like, oh my God, we got to talk about that on the show. When you talked about the fact that you will literally try a leaf, I guess, from every bale
Yeah,
that you
Every
buy.
bale that I buy from the source that I talked earlier, I go in person and I open the bales and pull a couple leaves and try them, bale by bale.
So when you say you try them, what do you burn them and smell?
Well, no, I roll a little
roll a
cigarillo and
cigar.
smoke it by cigar.
Wow.
Maybe
And-
with a binder on.
So I have to think though that you have to be able to smoke that, detect, what it's like, what the flavor is, but know that that's not what it's going to be in the cigar that you roll. So I just love the concept of being so aware of this tobacco that you're not only tasting it, but you're tasting what it's going to be. And
you're looking for some profiles, that particular seed and soil that you're buying, and you have to. I use a lot of my nozzles doing the retro slowly,
right,
to get those particular, like a radiography. How you say it? Like a picture of something inside. Yeah. So I do the study by my nozzles, and I know if that particular leaf is going to be in the place that I want in a few years.
For cigar smokers, if you don't perform a retrohale,
I was going to ask you to talk about that because we haven't talked about that.
Which is, when you take a puff and you gently let that smoke come out through your nose, you pick up so many flavors that you're missing if you don't do that.
And it's not the same as inhaling. A lot of people get that mixed up.
It's just letting it gently come out of your nose. Now, if you have a particularly spicy cigar, that can be pretty spicy on your nostrils. But so maybe not do that at the very first puff when you have a big cigar until you're a little more experienced. But letting that happen really brings out a lot of other flavors. It works as well when you drink whiskey or any liquor.
Sure.
You take a sip,
which I'm doing right now.
Gently breathe out of your nose.
I do that every time.
Right. You're gonna pick up even more flavors, more delicate flavors, more of the flavors that are a little less obvious. A little hidden flavors, and it makes a big difference in the experience.
It does. It's a way to further your enjoyment of the cigar. Would you say that?
Really tasting that dish,
Absolutely,
that recipe, because the tongue only can taste bitter, sweet, salt, and sugar. But all the flavors that we perceive are from particular that goes to the nostrils, and that brings you remembrance of the flavors.
Our sense of smell essentially is much more detailed than our sense of taste.
Yeah.
Because you said it's only the three basics that your tongue can really pick up.
If I could pipe in, I'm glad you mentioned the burn and just the overall construction of it. He and I have had this conversation before, and I think it would be interesting if you touched on. I know a lot of this has to do with how many your rollers are doing in a day, as opposed to that's key.
That's the key to our factory and to our brand. We have 10 years experienced rollers working for STALLONE Cigars, and that's because a 2-year experienced roller is not experienced enough to make different vitolas, right?
Yeah.
So they might get hooked in some vitola. When you change the vitola, you lose a lot of tobacco because the draw's not perfect, and etc. Right? So those experienced rollers, they can work really fast because they have the ability through the years and the experience. I don't like my cigars to be rolled super fast. So what I do is they regularly do 300 cigars per day. In some factories, they push them to do 400 cigars a day. But in my factory, I make them do only 150 cigars per day. So I have a supervisor, a Galera supervisor, he's 25-year-old roller tobacco from Cuba. And he knows from the top to the bottom about rolling, and he control everybody, slow down, and do the blend, because our blend our cigars are made by hand, 100%, no machines. So when experienced rollers take the time and they don't have pressure because they get them paid the same salary to do the half of the work, plus commission that I give them, to keep them motivated. They put a lot of love into what they're doing.
I love that. That's so cool.
Besides that, I get less percentage of rejected cigars. Instead of 10%, it dropped to 3% or 2%.
That's incredible. Awesome. It occurs to me too, the things you don't think about because it's not an issue is, I don't think I've ever lit one of your cigars and had it plugged or not gotten the right amount of smoke from it. The draw is always like right there, and it just occurred to me because I never thought about it when I was smoking one of your cigars.
It's absolutely true. And I will just mention that as I've smoked cigars for more years, it's gotten to the point where my biggest pet peeve is when I light a cigar that has the potential to have great flavors and great attributes, but I can't draw enough through it. So I'm drawing too hard, it's burning too hot.
Stop and go.
Completely ruined. What causes that? When that happens to a cigar I'm smoking, what happened in the rolling that made that happen?
Too much tobacco pack in the blend. Too many leaves. One extra leaf can make the change.
Right.
There's a lot of quality control in our factory. Going back to the bugs, we freeze the tobacco every year. The bells, we freeze the cigars before traveling. Below zero, with the boxes, everything. So, and we never have an issue. I'm not going to with the bill. And in regard to the draw, you control that. Professionally speaking and realistic speaking, we control that by weight of the bundle of 25. So the draw machine for me is just a circus. It's impossible for a factory that makes 100,000 cigars a day to put every cigar in the draw machine.
Yeah.
So the right way is controlled by the weight. So, for example, if you're doing a Robusto of particular blend, you might weigh like 27 ounces to draw good. If that bundle weighs like 30 ounces, you discard it because there's too much tobacco packet.
Right.
So that goes back. I'm going back to the experienced roller. It's very hard for them to mess the right blend to draw. And when you do box press tobacco, you have to be even more careful
because because
after the cigar is brown, you're going to press it, and the draw is going to get a little tighter.
So I just wanted to mention, and by the way, you will not need this if you're smoking Stallone cigars because I've never had to use this. And they're not a sponsor of the show, but just as a fan of cigars, I will tell you guys about the perfect draw system. And I would love for them to be a sponsor of the show. But this is a wonderful tool that you can use to open up some of your cigars that are not drawing as well as they should. And I gave you one of these as a gift.
Yes, I absolutely love it. And I've used it a few times.
Because nothing frustrates me more than lighting up a cigar. And maybe it's something you paid $10 or $15 or more dollars for, and it's just not drawing well. But I want to stress again, that has never once happened to me with a Stallone cigar. So,
thank you.
All right, we got to take a break. We have whiskey to try and more cigar talk here as we continue with our show, episode number 439, Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back. And welcome back, my friends. This is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is heard on great radio stations around the world, like WICC-AM in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and WFNC ESPN Radio, Houston.
Nice.
And now a dedication about a dead dog. Sorry. I get carried away.
You slip right into Casey.
I get carried away when
It's
I
actually
try
a pretty
to
good
do
one.
the Casey impression. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we're doing a show on location at our home away from the studio. It's Final Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas. Doug, one of the most enjoyable cigars I've ever smoked was one that Tony did that I think is only available here.
Mhm.
Is it still available? That
It is.
barber pole?
It is.
Oh, so it's a special edition Stallone cigar. It's a barber pole, which means it has a couple of different wrappers
Correct.
wrapped around it in a barber pole type style. And why is that cigar so good? Is it because of the barber pole? Is that really why it's so
Doug
enjoyable?
takes all the credit.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Doug has the credit because he's the creator.
Mm,
Yeah, so
I'm impressed. Doug.
he was very precise on what he wanted,
Yeah.
and I create a couple blends.
Mm-hmm.
5, I think it was.
Yeah, but I bring you, I think, 3 or 4. I don't remember how many blends I brought you, but the interesting fact is the cigar I thought that I was going to nail it with his requirement was not in the cigar that I like most for myself. It was the one he chose.
Yeah, he was going through them all, and he told me, I love telling the story that, tell me a little bit about each one. And the last one, he said, now this is the Doug cigar. This is the one I made. This is everything I know you love.
And that wasn't the one you chose.
And I called him up. He goes, what did you think of it? I said, well, it might be my self-loathing boiling to the surface here, but I hated the Doug cigar.
Are they all barber poles?
Yeah, they were all barber poles. And then he was like, well, but it was blend number 2. I said, but number 2. And that was the interesting thing. I don't know the blends of all the others, but there were 5, and I don't think they probably had that much difference as far as the actual blending of them, but they were wildly different. Mm-hmm. They were all so unique and so different. And the one that wound up becoming the Vinyl Draft cigar, it was just such a standout.
It's probably a placebo effect, and all 5 of them were exactly the same cigar.
I can promise you they were not, because there were a couple that I was like, I can't get behind this one. And I blew through the whole pack. I don't know how many you gave me in the pack, but I blew through the blend 2 so fast.
Now, Doug, I just wanted to mention, sometimes personal prejudices can play in to these type of things. Yep. So if there's ever a situation where Tony's making a new blend for you, and he's giving you several options, and you're smoking them and testing them to see which one you like, if you ever require a second opinion,
I know who to call.
I put my hand up.
4th, and 5th opinion.
Right. Yeah, you just know that I'm available, and I do it just for the love,
I appreciate
because
your
I want
people.
you to have the best blend that you can have.
It's a very selfless act of you.
I just lit up a new cigar that Tony handed me. This is the broadleaf, but it's the Clydesdale.
Yep.
And this has the shaggy foot that
I love that.
Right? But there's a story behind the shaggy foot, because the Clydesdale has
a shaggy foot, shaggy hoof.
As all my cigars are named after horses, because the story of the brand. Mm-hmm. I create that cigar particularly in that ring gauge, so that cigar does not come in any other ring gauge. So I blend that cigar to be a Gordo cigar with almost 3/4 of an inch with no wrapper. Mm-hmm. So when you light the cigar, you have the shaggy food lit in, and you can see like the Clydesdale food that they're heavy, they're bigger, like wider.
The shaggy
right. And then when you start burning the wrapper, everything changes. The complexity, and the profiles.
It's not called the Clydesdale because it was designed to pair with the Budweiser, correct?
No.
Okay, good to know.
No, I was named Clydesdale because it looks like a workhorse.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Well, I've got the Warhorse lit here, and let me tell you, this is a cigar. Wow, it punched me in the nose.
It has to represent the horse, the Bucephalus. He was very brave horse, and very, he went to many battles, he was a pretty brave horse. So I cannot make a cigar that is not similar to the.
Have you done a Comanche?
Actually, Comanche was the name of my very first horse.
Oh,
sorry, the second.
So you are a horse guy, right? You raise horses?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I do cutting horses, mostly in the forward area. For the Triple Crown, the Futurity Super Steak and Derby.
Sweet.
And I raise quarter horses, but cow horses.
One of the things that impressed me about Taylor Sheridan, who's the guy behind the Yellowstone series, is that he actually shows up as a bit player in Yellowstone, and actually is the guy riding the cutting horses and doing all that stuff. And I'm like, he's amazing.
He's a cowboy for real.
He really is. We've only got a moment left, but I wanted to see if you had sampled this Scotch yet.
Well, I've been doing research.
All right, so the Scotch is called Knockando, and it is a Signatory vintage 10-year Spec barrel pick single malt, and it's I think a fairly high ABV.
59.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in at 59.2.
And
definitely
your
Scotch,
thoughts, sir.
Which country?
It is Delightful.
Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah, this is a Scotch. Okay, we'll talk more about it when we come back, and we also have some Goose Island beer to drink. The Bourbon County Original Stout 2024, and drinking news is next.
There you go.
We'll be right back. It's Smoking the Toast. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are on location at Vinyl Draft in Kemah. And I just wanted to mention, before we get into drinking news, we only had a moment to talk about this Scotch, this Signatory. But I just have to say, wow. I think this is a wonderful beverage.
It's delicious.
Now, I've been drinking it since segment 2 because of my tickling throat.
Dark fruit. It's toffee. It's got some almost like a brownie kind of note on the very end of it. It's got so much stuff going on, and it goes so well with this broadleaf.
And I know Tony was enjoying it with your cigar. Which one are you smoking, Tony?
I'm smoking the last Nino.
Okay, wow. And just, it's working beautifully with this Warhorse as well.
Yes.
So this is a very versatile Scotch. It's a little bit overproof, not a lot, but a little bit. Enough to give you a little bit of a kick on the retrohale.
It's coming at 59%.
Yeah, so it's a
little bit big.
It's pretty rocking, and I'm enjoying it. And it's I will tell you, this is one of those. You know, we talked about Specs a little earlier. Our big sort of flagship spirits and wine store here. This is a Specs barrel pick, and one of the reasons I bought it is because it was originally priced at $100 a bottle, and they had it marked down to $60.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So, pretty nice for a $60 bottle of Scotch.
Really good.
Okay, now that I've been drinking, it's time for the segment of the program that we call Drinking News. It's something that it's where we bring you a story from the news. It is sometimes, but not always, about drinking, but it is always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And certainly I have since segment 2. So, without further ado, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. The Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news,
Love it.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers. Well, we open today's edition of Drinking News with a Drinking News sports report. Or perhaps we should just call it Drinking Sports. You know, I like the idea of drinking sports. Look how popular that the Drunk History Show has become on television.
I love it.
If you haven't seen it, the idea behind the program is that in each episode, an inebriated narrator, joined by the show's host, struggles to recount an event from history, while actors enact the narrator's anecdotes and lip-syncing dialogue.
Beautiful show.
It's pretty hilarious.
Wonderful.
If that has made history more fun, imagine how entertaining, let's say, drunk basketball would be. You know, maybe not as many three-pointers, and in fact, probably not a lot of points at all. The Oklahoma City Thunder took the championship in a wild Game 7. Final score, the Thunder 4 and the Pacers 2.
And drunken b-ball.
But our Drunken Sports report today doesn't actually involve drinking, or maybe it does, but in this case it would be drinking by the young man's parents when he was born, not by players drinking before they take the field or the court. It involves a college football linebacker who plays for the Bowling Green State University's football team, the Falcons. The young athlete's name is Gideon Lampron. Nothing too unusual there, until you take a look at the official team roster, which also lists his middle name. The full name of the Falcons linebacker in question is Gideon ESPN Lampron. Yes, that's right. When he was born, his parents gave him the middle name of the worldwide leader in sports. But it gets even better. or worse, depending on who you root for.
Did you ever see Key and Peele when they did that? All the ridiculous names of the people.
No, I didn't.
It looks like that sounds exactly like that.
Well, this young man's father, Gideon ESPN Lampard, is a Boston sports fan. And he told reporters who were asking him about all this that he actually wanted to name his oldest son Larry Bird Lampron.
Yes.
Apparently, his wife nixed that idea. Also, apparently,
I see what you did.
she was sedated years later during Gideon's birth, or she would have likely put a stop to this ESPN business before it was too late. You know, I suppose it's a good thing that this idea of giving a child a middle name from a television network didn't come to light before. Otherwise, we might be hearing the occasional news report about Hunter MSNBC Biden or Barron Fox News Trump. You know, I only use one name, but it would be kind of cool if my middle name was Sci-Fi Net. Although I doubt it would have ever helped me meet girls. But our main story...
You only have one name.
But our main story on today's Drinking News is about another father. One with, shall we say, not the greatest fashion sense about what to wear to an important occasion. It's the story of a Texas man. A Texas man whose recent court appearance was derailed by his choice of apparel. In Texas, courtroom participants are expected to wear, and I'm quoting here, appropriate business attire in the courtroom, end quote, and quote, exercise common sense.
You know, that is 100% true. I got a ticket in Pearland one time, and you see what I wear every day, which is shorts and a t-shirt. And sometimes when I dress up, I wear one of the nice collared shirts, such as Alan Denny might have on right there, or something like that. And my kids know this story because I had to take the kids that day with me to go to the court date. And when I got to the courtroom, they told me I was not allowed to go into the courtroom. And they gave me these horrific scrubs.
Oh my God.
And they made me wear these horrific scrubs. Also, while I was in there with this collared shirt on, there was people in there with the, t-shirts that were, let's say, disparaging to the police or anything like that. They had no problems, but my cargo shorts that I wear that go to my knees were absolutely not going to please the judge in this courtroom in Pearland.
Well, this whole concept of appropriate business attire and exercising common sense, as Terry has pointed out, were apparently lost on one Sammy Morris, who appeared in court before Judge Raquel West recently, wearing a t-shirt that read, wait for it, World's Best Farter.
But he had pants on, so they let him in.
In fairness, the shirt, which we can assume was given to him by a son or daughter, does have a line through the word farter. And below it says in smaller typeface, I mean father. The judge, however, was not impressed by the correction, and he asked the Texas man, what made you think that was a good shirt to wear to felony court this morning? As they may have asked Harry.
Yeah, why did I wear shorts?
Morris said something about that being the only shirt he could find, but the judge wasn't having it. She also admonished him for not showing up to his hearing with a lawyer. Morris said he had tried calling 3 different attorneys, but had gotten no response.
Because of the shirt.
Now, that doesn't necessarily surprise us here in Drinking News. I mean, we can only imagine the messages he left were something like, hi, I'm the world's best farter. I'm looking for a lawyer. Could you please call me back at... Oh, sorry, that one slipped out. Could you please call me back? And yeah, I'm guessing that Perry Mason, Matlock, and Lionel Hutz from The Simpsons all decided to pass on that representation opportunity. Morris was given 30 days to find a lawyer and another t-shirt. But here at Drinking News, we have to admit, we're a little worried that someone who actually wore a shirt to court that says world's best farter might once again not show the best judgment in choosing his next outfit for the court. And so, as a public service, to our Texas man, and to any of you who might find yourself needing to appear in felony court. We've assembled a few ideas that you might want to avoid, and at the risk of being held in contempt, we've compiled them for you in another easy to digest but difficult to excuse Drinking News Top 5 list. This would be the top 5 t-shirts you might want to avoid wearing to court. Top 5 t-shirts you might want to avoid wearing to court. Here we go, number 5. Reigning world champ of the one-cheek sneak. Number 4. Whoever smelt it, dealt it. Number 3. If it smells like S, you must acquit. Think about that one, and you can. Number 2. Kanye was right about everything. And the number 1 t-shirt that you might want to avoid wearing to court. Number 1. Hey, Judge. Nice Hooters. Reporting live from a courtroom in Texas, where it smells like something died in here. My name is Cruz, and that is your
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
cheers, y'all.
If it smells like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, there you go. See,
Wow.
before we were on the radio, we could have done that, but now that we're on the radio, obviously we can't say the S word. So
Yeah.
there are certain
Exactly.
limitations that we have to learn to live with here on Smoking
I
Toast.
used to think that y'all put drinking news at the end, so they would have to listen to the whole podcast to get to the best part.
Right?
Now I think that's not so much it.
Well,
You get to hear all the great stuff, and then you have to deal with it.
You know, I'll go along with you, Alan. It's probably the latter. Ian is pouring our final beer here, and I'm really excited about this because we've enjoyed the previous iterations of this so much. The Goose Island Beer Company's Bourbon County Original Stout. So these guys were famous for this beer before they were bought by Anheuser-Busch.
This was the original barrel-aged beer.
Absolutely. It was one of the first. In fact, if you're interested in this at all, there's a wonderful book called Barrel Aged Stout and Selling Out. And I recommend it highly. You've read it, Alan. I know Ian's read it. It's a wonderful read for anybody, even remotely interested in, the business and the excitement of beer. But the interesting thing about Goose Island is once they were taken over by Anheuser-Busch, they completely, I used to love their IPA, Goose Island IPA. I no longer enjoy it. They have ruined it, in my opinion. Some of their other beers, I'm just not that big of a fan. But the one thing they seem to have left alone and left to the brewers at Goose Island in Chicago is this yearly release of the stout.
They're definitely making a lot more of it than they did.
They are. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, they have different varietals of them too. They have the rye, they have the macaroon, they have I want to say there's like 10 different.
For years, you would have to stand in line.
To get one.
You'd have to stand in line to even get one. And if you were far back in the line, you might not.
Right. Well, this one is their Bourbon County Original Stout 2024. It's the first time
so good.
we've had a chance to try it, and so I'm excited about it. Oh, it smells so boozy, as it always does. But it's just a wonderful.
Wow.
My tongue is beating up the
If
inside
I
of
wasn't
mine.
already married, I would marry this beer.
Perfect.
Yeah, beer cigar.
Wow. That is just absolute chocolate, caramel, ripe, dark fruits. There's so much going on there.
Yeah.
Ian, your thoughts?
It's outrageous. It's always so good, and it is exactly what you said. There's that coming back from that whiskey too. There's that caramel, kind of burnt caramel, caramelized caramel, however you want to say it. Note that's very prevalent. Plus the
Almost like a creme brulee.
the date. The date note in there is so prevalent. I love this. Almost tastes like a barley wine.
And let me tell you, It with this cigar is heaven.
This is like
This is the warhorse I'm smoking,
when you
and it's heaven.
when you were a kid and you'd go over to grandma's house and she'd slip you one of those chocolate covered cherries wrapped up in the red foil. I can't remember the name of
Yep,
it.
yep. I know
It's
what you're
like
talking about.
Cherry cordials.
Yeah, cherry. It's like they fermented it and added it to a beer.
Oh,
And
so
made
good.
it wonderful.
Yeah.
It develops in
Now,
a bottle
Ian-
up to 5 years. So this is something you can store and age a little bit
I don't
as
think
well.
It develops in the bottle, you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah. What is this aging story you speak
Yes,
of?
I know not of what they speak.
Up to 5 years, they said. It doesn't have an ABV on it that I can find,
Well, this is interesting.
but it's going to be big.
I just went back to the Signatory Scotch, and now I'm getting these chocolate notes in the Scotch that I was not picking up before.
Oh, it does turn into a little bit of a chocolate
A
bomb.
little bit of a chocolate bomb.
And it just coats. I mean, it just
Right.
coats.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
I didn't know how far the bottle was going to go, so I'll pass this around. Please help yourself to a little more.
I don't think it's going to make it past the third person. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm doubting. I'm doubting it. But wow, this is really really good stuff. And you know, even though these are, as Ian and Alan were saying, they do make quite a bit more of this than they used to back in the day. This is still something that's reasonably affordable. I'll be honest, I don't remember the exact amount, but I want to say it was around $15. And it's just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
And
Yeah, it's worth everything.
I've left a little of this for you gentlemen if you want to make your way over and pour more. But yeah, I just can't say enough about this. And I'll also mention it's this good every year. I don't feel like it's the same every year, but it's this good every year.
Yeah, there's variations in it. It always has the same tasting profile, but there's variations in it. This year, it's very upfront with the dark fruit. And,
Yes.
Wow.
And the caramel on the back. There's a little bit of coffee. Oh, 14.7%. You looked at it.
Hello.
It's coming in pretty big, yeah.
Wow, thank you, Tony. This is
This is the kind of bottle, though, that you don't just sit down and drink.
you don't sit down and quaff it, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can sit down and drink it by yourself, but you want to take your time with it, you know?
Yeah, like sipping,
Sipping,
enjoying.
enjoying it. It's so good with the cigar.
This is a bottle where you get another bottle and share it with one other person.
Yeah, I'm going to get another bottle of this so I can share it with my friends. We got to take a break. We'll be back to close this out. It's Smoking and Toasting on location at Final Draft in Kemah. We'll be right back.
In the beginning.
Welcome back, my friends. It is Smoking and Toasting. Some very bizarre things have happened during the break, so I need to speak to you all from my heart. We are on location at the wonderful Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas. And I say wonderful, but I'm questioning that a little bit now.
It's taking a bit of a turn, isn't it?
Messenger, the proprietor of this fine establishment, because you actually had over on your bar here an actual bottle of Malort. Like, just curious, like, what made you say, okay, I'm stocking the bar, I need to take care of what people are going to be looking for. Oh, I need a bottle of Malort.
Yes.
It's for my own entertainment.
There's a story about a band that used to get on stage, and the singer would drink a shot of Malort out of the bottle and hand it out to the audience. And when the bottle would come back, it would still have Malort in it.
I understand this
The audience
completely.
handed it back.
Well, we understood earlier in the show that Tony Barrios from STALLONE Cigars had never been Malorted, had never had Malort. And I will freely admit, you know, to my own gullibility, because Ian has not only Malorted me once, but he's Malorted me twice. And if I could paraphrase former President George W. Bush, Malort me once, shame on you. Malort me twice, Malort me won't get fooled again. That's a paraphrase, but it's pretty close. But yeah,
I know enough that I'm scared. This is the one I have learned so much about liquor, so many fine spirits, wonderful spirits. I think we had Heaven's Door over here one time with you. We had all kinds of wonderful spirits, but the one that I've learned to be scared of the most is Malort, and I've never had it.
And Terry will be trying it for the first time as well.
The gentleman that introduced me to Malort.
And you use gentleman very loosely.
Yes. And when I told him I thought it tasted terrible, he goes, "It's not bad." He goes, "It's challenging to appreciate."
Wow. That's cute.
Well,
wow.
Well, the gentleman that exposed me to Malort, these two jackals right here.
Yeah.
So,
and I just want to point something out. When Tony agreed to sample Malort on our show, which I think is a very brave thing for this man to do, and my respect for him has only increased. I realized that we could not allow him to do this alone. So I'm going to have some. Ian's going to have some. Doug's going to have some. Roberto's going to have some. And Terry's going to have some. But one of us declined.
that's right.
That's ugly on my face, not stupid.
And that's Alan Denny.
Tony, I don't know about you, but I'm trying to get a little nose off of it. What I'm getting is something that I would get like maybe out of a first aid kit, something you're supposed to put on a cut. This is the kind of nose I'm getting on
I
that.
enjoyed the nose originally. That lemongrass smell wasn't off-putting.
Yeah, the nose is not terrible, but let's see what you think once you have it.
I mean, look, if you want to get rid of your teeth enamel, this is as good as it doesn't get any better.
So cheers, my friend.
All right,
What it
gentlemen.
is.
Here we
Cheers,
go.
y'all.
Cheers.
Tony, I apologize in advance. Here we go.
Holy
Do you drink it fast or do you sip it?
You
Do
drink it
people
fast.
savor this?
You drink it fast.
Wow. Wow.
You know in the movies when they walk up to the bar
that was like
and they
either
get a
way.
shot of whiskey and they drink it down immediately and they make that face. That's
You mean this face? This face
God,
right here?
that
The
face.
one that I tried to sip it and I thought, and then you,
alcohol.
Yeah. If you
maybe
could
good for
drink a
chicken
dentist
fights.
office,
I would just
that's
say
what it tastes like.
this is why I don't understand Chicago.
okay.
I
Now
love
wait a
Chicago,
second.
but I don't understand it.
When we speak about spirits, we also don't just talk about the taste when we tasted it. We also taste the aftertaste and what comes up afterwards. And wow, that is
Oh, yeah.
horrific.
Yeah.
It's got like overtones of doo-doo. I don't know. It just is nuts.
My favorite was watching your face doing this, where you took the sip and you're like, "Okay, not so bad." And then you swallowed and went, "Oh wow."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the
I need to
moment.
sand my tongue.
Yes.
That was the moment we took 2 years off his life.
I think
Just right there.
I think I have to give Terry credit for the best line of the show, which was overtones of doo-doo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Tony, you make fantastic cigars, but they cannot do anything to save
Delicate
them.
Yeah.
notes of carpet mold.
I'm not even feeling the cigar anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cigar is like non-existent.
It's
now.
Non-existent.
But Tony, thank you so much for being on the show today. Your cigars are so wonderful. It's one of the
Thank
reasons that we wanted to have you back because, it's one thing to say, hey, this is a really cool boutique cigar company. But this is one I'm going to say, I recommend these cigars, like with everything I have. These are wonderful. I haven't had a single thing from you that I didn't absolutely love. And yes, Ian, I will take some more of the whiskey to
Of the
try to
Malort?
drown this out.
Good small Malort?
But I feel like this is a cigar that people should know about. Now, if people are living in a place where they are not finding your cigars in their brick and mortar cigar stores, what should they do? Can they order them online?
Yeah, they can go online. There's plenty of places online that you can find the cigars as well.
Right?
Just Google, STALLONE Cigars online, and it will pop up.
Stallone Cigars, they're all wonderful. The price points are completely and totally worth it.
I mean, if it sounds like we're raving on them, we are, because they're that good.
Absolutely. And we don't rave on everything. Some people accuse us of liking everything, but I point out the Malort segment as proof that that's not the case.
Gurkha, proof we don't love
Rewind
Yeah,
2 minutes into the podcast and you'll find we don't
Yeah,
necessarily.
But I
Dug
got
on
to tell you, This is a wonderful line of cigars, and I have not come across a boutique cigar company that I've been this impressed with ever.
Thank you so much.
I feel like you guys are just nailing it. I love that you take a slower approach to the rolling and producing of the cigars to ensure the quality. I feel like that's just so huge in our world where everybody is like mass produce, and get as much out there as
rush
possible.
everything out as fast
Rush
as you
everything
can.
out. Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna have a tariff. We're not gonna have a tariff. You know, all of that stuff. Like it just feels like the care and the precision that you put into this is so important.
Thank you so much.
And we just absolutely love it. We support you and we love you and we thank you
We love
for
you
being
too.
a part of this. Doug, thanks for letting us hang out here again.
It's an open invitation for you guys always.
We love it. From our home away from studio, from the Vinyl Draft Social Club in Kemah, Texas, this is Smoking and Toasting on location with Tony Barrios from STALLONE Cigars, reminding you that education is important, but cigars are important. Have a great week, my friends, and cheers, y'all.
y'all.
Here, here.
Cheers.